Tenants, if you're having troubles finding a place to rent, I hope this video will help you guys finally get into the unit that you want. Sometimes it's a very competitive market in the rental market, sometimes it's not. It just depends. But when it is competitive, then the landlords really go through everything. They go through every line in detail, making sure that that tenant qualifies and making sure that they have no worries. Because let's face it, in Ontario, the tenants do have a lot of rights, probably more rights than the landlords. And we all know how it's been going with the landlord and tenant board and the wait lines and the wait lists for landlords to evict tenants. It's not easy. So they want to make sure they get the best applicant in there. So if you are looking for a place to rent and you're not having the best luck getting the landlord to approve you, and you fully believe you are a good tenant because you are, then I have 5 tips for you that I hope really help you along the way in order to get you into the unit that you want to rent. I'm Athar Jaffrey. I've been buying, selling, and renting real estate in the GTA for more than 20 years. And if you have any questions, just drop a comment below. And my goal with this channel is just to make the process of buying and selling and renting real estate simple. So let me get right into it. 5 tips that will really help you hopefully get your foot literally into the door of the rental unit you want if you're not having the best of luck. So number one is get a personalized reference letter from the landlord, not just his phone number on the rental application for the potential landlord to call, but if you have a current landlord, get a reference letter from them outlining exactly how long you've lived there, what kind of tenant you've been, if you've been paying your rent on time, because if you are actually a good tenant, most landlords will do this happily. And in my experience, they'll just say, yeah, write the letter exactly how you want it, I'll sign it, I'll endorse it, no worries, that letter can come from me. And this goes a long way. It shows that you're so confident in yourself as being a tenant that you're not just going to put the landlord's reference number there. You're actually going to get a letter from him stating exactly how good of a tenant you were, so the next landlord that you're applying to can actually read the letter before they even call the reference. Okay, so that's number 1, get a landlord reference letter. Number 2, if you are working with a realtor looking for a place to rent, as a realtor who represents many landlords in the process of getting their places rented out, many times the landlord does not even speak to the potential tenant. It's all agent to agent until, the keys are exchanged and then they hand it off to the landlord, because that's why the landlord has hired the agent, so that he's hands off and they don't have much to worry about. They want it out of sight, out of mind. But in this case, if you're having troubles getting through to the landlord, or your story is not being told the right way, maybe you believe your profile is not being explained to its full potential to the potential landlords, then I would suggest you ask your realtor to set up an interview. Say, hey, I will speak to that potential landlord. He can interview me. They can ask me all the questions they want on the phone, in person, whatever you prefer. Because remember, you are a good qualified tenant. Maybe you're having troubles getting into the unit you want because there's some competition with other potential tenants that are applying for the same place, which I see all the time. There are multiple offer situations in tenancy as well. For the lower price units or the really nice units that are priced very well, they'll still get 2 or 3 offers. So I would highly suggest set up an interview with the potential landlord. And this is pretty much if you are working with a realtor looking for a place to rent, because as mentioned, it's usually just agent to agent. Number 3, if you have a decent income and you believe it should be enough, but maybe the landlord doesn't believe it, they can ask you for bank statements, but sometimes they won't, because many people, they don't want to share their bank statements. But I highly suggest if you have a good amount in your savings, then you should just add that to the portfolio. Add it to whatever the agent or yourself are sending these landlords to apply for that rental unit. You should add a bank statement. Show your savings account, maybe if you have some stocks or something like that. Wherever you could be liquid, any money that you can be liquid with, I would include a statement of that and show it to the potential landlord. The landlord might think maybe the potential tenant's income is not exactly where I need it to be, but clearly they manage their money very well because they have a lot of money in their savings account, in their mutual funds, in their stocks, whatever it may be. It shows that you manage your money well, and it can speak volumes to the landlord. Okay, so that's number 3. Number 4. Now, this is an interesting one. According to the Ontario Landlord and Tenant Act, a landlord may not request extra rent deposits. So aside from first and last, a landlord can't request anything else. However, tenants can voluntarily offer first and last 3 months rent, first and last 4 months rent. And this is very common in the city of Toronto when it's a landlord's market, that tenants will many times voluntarily offer up to 6 months rent in advance. And that, again, goes a long way with the landlord. Now, this one is not for everybody. This is really if you can afford it and you really want the unit and it's just not going in your way, then you can offer extra months rent. Remember, it's your decision. The landlord is not allowed to ask you. If he does, I mean, legally, I'm not sure how that works, if they're even allowed to ask, but they're not allowed to request it from a tenant. The tenant can voluntarily offer it. Many times, it's kind of like a conversation with the agent. Hey, can your tenant voluntarily offer extra months rent? You know, it's just in how we position it. And then the agent that's representing the tenant will go back to their client and say, hey, can you do this? The landlord is asking. But then in the agreement, it would say tenant voluntarily offers. This is the fact of the matter and how it usually goes down. But if you have the money there and you really want the unit and you're having a tough time getting a place to rent, then this is one thing that you can try. Okay, that's number 4. And number 5 is you should write a personal letter to the landlord as well. You might have almost a perfect credit, or you believe you have perfect credit, but then when you look at it, you completely forgot that there was something in collections as small as a Rogers bill or a Bell bill, which happens all the time. You'd be surprised how much I see this, that these small amounts are going to collections, and then it actually lowers your credit quite a bit. So I would write a letter to the potential landlord outlining any blips that you might have in your credit score and history, explaining what it might be. Because many times the landlord may just quickly look at the score, doesn't even really look at the history, and then makes their decision based on that. But you might have a very good history and just 1 or 2 small blips that you can fully explain and back up with some information and explain to the landlord that this is the only reason why my credit report or credit score is so low. And then what they will do probably is then they will take it a step further and now really look at your credit score in detail. So Equifax, TransUnion, these are the standard credit reports that landlords will look at. You would print it out with the score and the report. And if you see any blips or anything, you could write a reference letter from yourself, a self-referring letter, you can say, to the potential landlord, just explaining your situation on a more human level, allowing them to see you as a human being rather than just a number or an applicant, and maybe that sways their decision. These things may not sound like game changers, but I guarantee you, compounding all this together with your application, you will be light years ahead if you are competing with another applicant for the same unit. So if you are looking for a place to rent, I hope this video helped. If you know anybody that is looking for a place to rent that may not be having the best of luck, then forward this video on to them, and I hope it really helps them as well. My name is Athar Jaffrey. Again, I've been selling real estate in the GTA for more than 20 years. My goal with this channel is just to make the process of buying and selling real estate simple.